I hope that I can just like look at the blue sky and have something peaceful to look at, not this whole, what I'm looking at in front of me. I hope that's not my last moments. And that kind of gave me a little bit of peace.
This one, I picked it because the caption's just frankly funny. And it's also geotagged your mom's house. It says balls deep, as we used to say, long before it was a popular term. The meaning to us referred to how far into bad guy territory we were. These are a few picks from that day and also a pick of us getting ready to go. We lost a mate on this day, Andy Fernandez. Although he was brand new to the unit, he had just been assigned, he left his mark and will forever be etched into historic endeavors. R.I.P. Andy. So I know you probably can't get into specifics. The caption's hilarious, the top half of it anyways. But
Yeah.
Are you able to say anything about what this Instagram post is in relation to?
That was post gunfight. I think it's been talked about in some book, someplace. So I don't read any military history stuff. So I don't know. People will send me things sometimes where like, oh, this must be from this book that so-and-so wrote about. Like, I don't know. It was kind of post gunfight. We were outnumbered and surrounded by, 130, 150 dudes, and had, at least beat everybody back enough that, that was kind of that moment when that picture was taken. So we didn't necessarily know at the time, like, it was any gunfight is a scary moment, and, you don't really necessarily know the outcome. But it was almost, for me and where I was, it was almost a fun gunfight. Like, they couldn't hit me where I was, and they couldn't hit my group where we were based on the terrain. And so we were almost kind of laughing, running back and forth, shooting at these guys over here, go grab some more ammo, go shoot at these guys over here. And so it wasn't, a terrifying moment. It turned into not to be a terrifying moment. But then we started hearing radio calls, hey, we got some people hit and injured, and okay, well, now this is a serious thing. It's not a funny thing anymore. And if anything, the post kind of reflects that, where,
right.
Initially, hey, haha, fun. This was, a good day. And then, somebody paid the ultimate price that day. And but that's about as much as I can say.
Guys, I've got outright winners for you this week in the NFL, and the underdogs, I try to get 2 or 3, but I'm only telling you the ones I'm putting the money behind. OutKick.com/bet is where you can go to do the same. We'll see if Paul and Chad agree. I'm taking the Washington Commanders on the road against Indianapolis. The biggest strength of the Commanders is their front seven on defense. The biggest weakness of the Colts, their offensive line. Give me Washington on the road winning outright as backups play. And Ellinger's making his first start. Meanwhile, Heineke is not. So I'm taking Washington on the road. Giants over the Seahawks. This is a tough one. But the Giants have trailed in every game this year, and they come back to find a way to win. I like their grit. I love their coach. I like the playmakers on defense, and Saquon Barkley is Saquon Barkley. Kenneth Walker III and Barkley, two of the only 4 running backs to average over 100 yards rushing per game as a starter in the league right now. This is going to be a tight game. I'm taking the Giants on the road because they win close games all season long, and by now it's no fluke. And the Cardinals over the Vikings, my biggest upset of the week. I'm taking Arizona on the road. The Vikings return at 5-1 off a bye, but keep in mind, Arizona had 10 days as well. They played on Thursday night, and Arizona blitzes on 42% of all plays. How do you beat Kirk Cousins? The stats will show you he's not as good when teams blitz him. I'm taking Arizona, their speedy defense, and I think Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins in game number 2 take off. I'm taking the Cardinals on the road in Minnesota.
Hutton, I don't hate all 3 of these, but as something that Mr. Ferentz at Iowa should do offensively, you need to adjust at times.
Yep.
When something's not working. My gambling has not been working, so instead of parlaying these 3, I'm betting all 3 separate.
Okay, that's fine.
This time.
Well, I don't parlay these. This is just straight upsets.
Well, I got teased when you went 3 for 3 and I parlayed and won, so I keep going back to it, but now it's time to adjust.
I parlayed Commanders.
If you win one of these, you can get your money back.
I parlayed Commanders and Giants together. I feel very good about those. I made both of those picks as well. I'm not as confident in the Cardinals, though. I've got a good item on that when we get to it later.
It's time for Minnesota to rest of the mean. At least that's my theory. OutKick.com/bet is where you can join us. Headlines next. Dockich believes that Matt Ryan, within a couple of weeks, is going to be in the MVP race. The Colts are absolutely horrible. They're not well coached.
I agree.
He hates their team, but yet he thinks their quarterback is going to be in the MVP race. Why?
Hey, let me explain. I don't think he's going to be the MVP. But these 2 games, when the Colts win, it has been because of defense and Matt Ryan, 4th quarter, playing well. All right? I'm saying these 2 games set it up. If they lose these 2 games, today and then against the Commanders, season gets tough. They got the Eagles. They've got to go to New England. They've got to go to Vegas. But if the Colts win today, it's going to be because of Matt Ryan late in the game. And you guys know quarterbacks are here for one thing. Late game, 4th quarters in the NFL, and that would be every game that they win is going to be because of Matt Ryan, and people will start talking about it. Not saying he is, but start talking about it.
Dan, we do something on our show where I put people on the couch.
Yeah.
And it's not anything dirty. Don't worry about that. But it's basically where I play the role of psychiatrist.
Yeah.
And I put someone down, and we get down into what the issues are that would lead someone to have such a terrible opinion of Matt Ryan in the NFL. And what I think is going on here, Dan, is that you were so good at being a contrarian with indie media. You hate them. They hate you. You always go the opposite way. So once they all got on board with you and didn't like this Colts team and started questioning things that you questioned, you decided to go the other way against them towards Matt Ryan because you will always be on the opposite side of them.
Well,
Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong about most of it. I want to be on the opposite side of indie media because they're morons. However, I started looking at this, and I'm like, wait, Colts are bad. But if they win today, and they win against Washington, that's a 4-game winning streak, and it will only be because of Matt Ryan. Yes, you are right-ish. Because whenever I side with the morons of the indie print media, that's when I need to quit. But I will say this, looking at it objectively, the dude isn't great, and at times is horrible, but I tell you this, you give him the ball down 1 score, he's pretty good.
Dan, when was the last guy who, quote, isn't great and sometimes horrible that won the MVP?
I didn't say he was going to win
NFL.
it.
Oh, that was in the MVP race.
Trent Dilfer. I don't know. I just made that
He
up.
didn't win MVP.
Ryan
Never won
Tannehill.
MVP.
I'm not saying win. This is
Okay.
where you get it
And he's
wrong.
saying he's gonna be in
I'm
the
saying
discussion.
you're going
Of
to
course
all of a
he's not
sudden
going
go,
to
wait a second.
Matt Ryan is going to make history this year.
Tell me.
And it's not because of making the MVP race for Dan Dockich. Matt Ryan is going to set the new record for most fumbles in a season by a quarterback. He has 11, and it's week 7. The record is like 25 or 26. Is it?
Yeah. All-time fumbler, a quarterback, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. My
Hey,
brother
this has
was
been a great
great
tailgate for us.
Yeah.
This has been fun, but I would like to put on the record, OutKick 361, don't at me, nothing. After today.
That's presumptuous.
Well, you get to win when we come to Indy. Sixth and Peabody, our location each and every day. OutKick 360 rolls on across the OutKick network. We say thank you to all of our great radio partners. If you're listening, we hope you'll chime in. You can join us on social media at OutKick 360 is how you can search us out. And if you've missed parts of the show, you can download the podcast wherever you download your audio by searching out the show there, OutKick 360. OutKick.com is where you can stream the show live.
Hutton, nothing makes us happier, and I'm following the Twitter account the entire show. Davey Hudson is as well. Than when a radio listener mentions where they're listening right now. And that happens every so often. We don't often ask for it, but absolutely, if you're hearing us on a radio station right now, on a radio station's app, if you're hearing us audio only right now, even if it's podcast after the fact, please hit us up at OutKick360 on Twitter, across social media. Let us know how you consume the show. And then we will we'll give you a thank you for letting us know where you're hearing the show right now.
Yep, and we say hello to everyone listening from Cookeville with Sports Radio 104.7 to Florence, Alabama, and Huntsville. We say hello there. Also, Muscle Shoals, Alabama, and all of our great partners across the network from Missouri to Illinois chime in at OutKick 360. Couple of headlines out there, guys, based on injuries as we get to it. Paul, Ryan Tannehill, the one starting quarterback. We know Russell Wilson's playing in London at 9:30 Eastern against Jacksonville. So, he let everyone know he worked out on the plane for 4 of the 8-hour flight, which is a lie. There's no way he maybe stood up for 4 hours, but work out? Okay.
I just love the idea of him doing lunges down the aisle during the flight.
Real quick, did you guys? And I completely. I remember reading this piece at the Athletic, and I don't know why we didn't bring it.
I'm set
on the
to
show.
Google it right now.
Wilson, as part of his deal with the Broncos, and he had this in Seattle, he has his own office, not his own locker.
Yeah.
He has his own
At the
office
facility.
at the team facility. And Shannon Sharp brought this up with Skip Bayless, and they were debating the whole workout excuse. Like, why would you admit that you did that without, you're trying to sound cool or whatever? You guys have been more on the fake bandwagon than I have, but this year more than ever, it's over the top. And the fact that if in fact he does have, because he's got a rookie GM, rookie head coach, or a new GM, he's going to a new rookie play caller, and he's got all the power based on how he has things set up. That was Shannon Sharp's take, and it's hard to ignore that when you see the results so far. It's a big game for them. It's Jacksonville. Like,
Look, they play good defense.
it's a big game for Jacksonville too, and Trevor Lawrence. But
Broncos
the expectations
play good
were
defense.
with Denver.
And they're hoping this game is playing the good defense. I don't expect the offense to light anybody up anytime soon with what they've been doing.
So the one story I found on this, Hutton, is from 104.3 The Fan in Denver by Mike Evans. This is from denverfan.com.
Okay.
And it's a column about things that should be taken away from Russell Wilson now that he sucked 6 weeks into the season. And it does say, from the moment Russell Wilson became a Bronco, he's gotten his way. His own office at Broncos headquarters, fine. Field and building access for his family and entourage, no problem. A $250 million contract extension when there's still 2 years left on current contract, gulp. And then it goes on to say, no more. 6 weeks of terrible football from Russ and this offense means the rules have got to change. Can you imagine if the Broncos went in and just boarded up, just packed up all of his stuff in his office and said, we're going to utilize this now for someone else in the front office and not you? How funny that would be.
If he found the box in his locker.
The thing that bothers me more about Russell Wilson of all the reports that's out there is him not giving his personal cell phone to teammates.
Yeah, that's
Awful.
odd. But it's awful, but you don't hear about that from the franchise guys. Like not just the fringe, the guys who have won a Super Bowl. It's odd. It's awful.
You have to know when you're doing that you're building a wall and you're making yourself bigger than the team. And one of the big jobs that quarterbacks do, if all of these insider pieces you see, small ones or Brady, man in the arena, is the effort that star quarterbacks make to be one of the guys.
Yes.
I mean, we've seen it up close with Steve McNair, who's not maybe Russell Wilson's caliber in terms of the stardom. In terms, he didn't win a Super Bowl, McNair. He doesn't have the lights on him the way that Russell Wilson does. But the idea that he would ever wall himself off from the team in any way, shape, or form rather than being one of the guys. And it just makes me wonder, having seen a lot of quarterbacks interact with the equipment guys and guys like that, I know McNair would joke with those equipment guys, and they were friends. You think Russell Wilson's friends with equipment guys if he won't give his numbers to the stars on his team?
It's such a
hard to believe.
It's such a bad look, though, Paul. It's a bad look for Denver for making that move. That's something you need to know.
Yeah.
If you're going to make a trade of this weight with that contract that they gave him, I mean, it's
quarterback desperation, Chad.
This is something that
guy won a Super Bowl and he's played well.
If you're a major college head coach and you're recruiting a kid, and there are issues about him as a teammate, and he's a leader at quarterback, and his own teammates don't like him, you don't necessarily go as hard after the kid. College is different. You got a lot more spots. The money's not the same, but you may look differently at that person you're trying to bring in as a quarterback.
You play the yeah, but game.
When you're talking this
but
much
he's
money.
Won a Super Bowl. Yeah, but he's led that organization to a lot of Super Bowls. The thing you don't do, though, is extend him immediately.
Again, this is not, people are like,
you have to get the trade
media
done.
wasn't talking about it and all that. Okay, fine. I didn't know any of this until he got traded, and then this happens. But the Denver Broncos need to know this. If you're in the business of making this move and committing that much money to a franchise quarterback, there has to be people you've crossed paths with that were refused his phone number.
Well,
that either played for Denver and played for Seattle, or people around the league that know.
I would tell you that.
That is a major red flag. And maybe they looked into it and don't care.
Here's what it came down to. They wanted to sell their franchise for $5 billion. They made that move, and then the sell happened.
Makes it more valuable.
They have Russell Wilson, who's played in 2 Super Bowls. He's not Deshaun Watson either. Let's not even – we just had a franchise that traded for Deshaun Watson.
Clean.
And you trade for Russell Wilson, who is squeaky clean. He's not an awful guy.
He's a Walter Payton Man of the Year.
He's not exactly. He's the opposite of Deshaun Watson. But the stories that are out there, not giving your cell phone number out is odd and weird. It's not like detrimental to his career.
No.
The guy hasn't up until last year hadn't missed a game in 10 years. So he was doing okay, and I look at it like Denver wanted to get back to the top of the mountain, and they did so in a year where they just sold for over $5 billion. So they made their franchise more valuable, and it's not like people thought they were going to be awful. This is a surprise, what we've seen. And Jacksonville was a surprise to start, and now they've leveled off.
Hey, I think, first off, you just made a great point I never thought about with the team being sold and just, hey, we'll push things through even if there are red flags because we need a marquee guy, and he is a marquee guy. I'm just, from a football standpoint, it would be something that you'd have to know as a GM, as a coach, to make that commitment. I'm not talking about a great pass rusher that you're going to pay a lot of money to come in and be a pass rusher. This is the quarterback that you're paying to be the quarterback and the leader of your entire organization, really, in a lot of ways for a number of years. I don't know how you guys feel about that. That's something, if I'm a GM, I'm thinking, guys, we may be better to just take it on the chin right now in a very tough division and try to go find a guy in the draft or reevaluate next year.
I don't think they have that time, though.
You let the new coach.
They've got to win as the new regime, a new ownership takes over, or that's why we're saying Hackett's out.
Yeah.
Right?
You let a new coach guide you on quarterback.
The new GM came in and had the full keys to the system.
Your point is well made because they were in a time of transition with ownership. So they were trying to put lipstick on the pig, so to speak, and make it look a lot more valuable and get the highest price they could. How much more money did they get out of it by having Russell Wilson as opposed to not for the Broncos? Probably not a ton based on the valuation of these.
But they also
NFL
didn't know it was
teams.
going to be sold as
immediately
right before the season. It could have gone through the again, like you're just trying to give a little kickstart to what you're doing, which was not good.
This is where, as weird as it sounds, though, and again, this is a different scenario because they were in transition. But at times, it is better to have your owners making more big decisions like this. And I say it for this reason. Hutton, you point to this a lot. Self-preservation.
Yes.
Self-preservation is huge in the league. So what a GM might do or a head coach might do in terms just to try to keep their job in the short term is at a detriment to the long-term stability of a franchise. Can be. Or a locker room. Or even that team. So this is one where you want someone with their eye on the full court, not just the ball. So you have an owner that can make decisions that you know they're doing it in the best interest, you think, of the franchise.
Tannehill, is he playing this week, Paul?
He's questionable. And Mike Vrabel said, they want to stretch it out as long as they can. In my opinion was that, this is a game they should be able to win without him. And then last night, I started digging into the numbers some, and I'm concerned based on what I found. Because we know Derrick Henry can run against this Houston team. His last 3 games against this Houston team, he ran spectacularly well. He missed one last year in the second half of the season when he was out with his foot. But, and Houston's got a horrific run defense this year. But hear me out on this. So these last 3 games will start in 2019, December of 2019. He carried 32 times, 211 yards, 3 touchdowns. This is the kind of game I think they could survive with Malik Willis. Ryan Tannehill threw 20 times, completed 13, 198 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. That was a 35-14 game. All right. If that's what you're asking to Malik Willis, he'd rather not throw 20 passes, and he's going to offset some of this with his runs. That'd be okay. But the 2 more recent games, this is going to surprise you, I think. And I don't have a good game memory, and maybe you guys don't remember this either. In October of 2020, Henry ran 22 times for 212 with 2 touchdowns. Ryan Tannehill attempted 41 passes. Hit on 30 of 41 passes for 366 yards.
Which one was this the overtime game?
I'm not sure if it was overtime. 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. They won 42-36.
And what year was this?
This was October 18th, 2020.
That's the overtime game.
They absolutely needed a huge quarterback game to go with 212 yards from Derrick Henry to win that game.
That team was very different, though, than this Texas team.
In 2020, that was it's not that stat line, but that's how they won. They passed for 100 yards to A.J. Brown. Corey Davis would have like 70. 50 to 70, and then Jonnu Smith would get you a touchdown, and then they'd have Derrick Henry.
The defense was bad.
Yeah.
And this defense is good. On January 3rd, 2021, Henry carried 34 times for 250 with 2 touchdowns. And Ryan Tannehill threw 35 times, completed 21 of 35 for 212 with a touchdown and a pick. And they won 41-38, a field goal. They needed 35 pass attempts to go with 250 yards from their back. If the game's shaped anything like this, even if Derrick Henry's running for 250, without Tannehill, they'll be in trouble. Now, I still think you got to probably rest a guy that didn't practice this week.
I think even with Tannehill, what's the line? 2, 3?
It was 2.5, I think. Yeah.
And it started with the uncertainty around Tannehill, I understand. But this team's in trouble against the Texans even with him. They're in trouble in every game.
It's a close game.
Pretty much, yeah.
They don't
It's
have a
going to be a close
passing offense. I'm not picking them to lose, but I do find it funny when people act like, well, you can just take a mulligan here and start Malik Willis and hand the ball off 45 times, and he can run a little bit, and you'll easily beat the Texans without Tannehill. And I'm thinking, even with Tannehill, who's a much better option than Malik Willis right now, it's not a gimme against anyone in this league. Now, they play good enough defense, and Paul, you've seen it a number of times. They play good enough defense where it's not a gimme the other way either. I'm not going into games and thinking, well, this team's definitely going to blow out the Titans because they're a great enough defense to hang in there. But it's not a given,
well, I mean,
even with Tannehill.
Yeah, well, it's a very astute point because their 4-game win streak have come by a combined 22 points.
Yeah.
And they've outscored opponents through 3 quarters by 20 points. Or 22 points, yeah.
I mean, they're the same team that lost. Not much has changed. They're the same team that lost the Giants. The Giants look a lot better. That's a different team than we expected. But they got blown out by the Bills. They've got to win a certain way. They've got to ugly up the game. They're not going to score more than 24 points so far.
Yeah.
And they got to win a close, hard-fought game where their defense plays great.
And they need a halftime lead. Like they've had 24-10 twice at halftime. They've had 13-0 twice at halftime this year. One of those they lost in week 1 to the Giants. The Texans, they have a +10 differential in the first 3 quarters of the season with Paul's stat, +10. The fourth quarter, -41.
And the Titans have scored 6 points in the fourth quarter this year.
This is a weird one. And, I was going to ask Paul, do they need Tannehill? Yeah, they do. Because I think the viewpoint is, they're not throwing the football, and they have the worst receiving core in the league, and I agree with that. Top to bottom, I think their receiving core is the worst in the league. But the thing about Ryan Tannehill is he will keep you out of a bad play, at least. Yeah. You trust him to go to the line and get you out of a bad play that's been called.
Or throw the ball away.
And just check to some. Malik Willis, I assume, and I say fear, but I still think they can run their offense. I think when he's asked to pass, it is a lot like we saw in the first preseason game, where it's half a read and go.
And he was unwilling to throw some of the time.
Yeah.
And they're going to need him to throw.
You guys you may hate this. I wonder if Logan Woodside is a factor this week because he knows the offense and he's the closest thing to Ryan Tannehill to keep you out of a bad play.
And if it's
not as much about throwing. You mentioned the numbers. This receiving core they're not getting those numbers anyway, I don't think. But the idea that Willis is going to get you out of a play that's called and make it right, and I'm not saying Willis doesn't start. I just think and Woodside will be active. If
they're waiting until Sunday morning to decide on Tannehill or even Saturday night, they've got to make the Woodside move tomorrow afternoon.
But either way, even with his ankle, I think they would have him active. I think they'll bring him up either way.
I would suspect
Todd Downing would need to have a stellar performance as a play caller if Malik Willis is the guy.
Keep
because
in
I'm
mind
with you,
here
he's
too,
not going to get them into the right play. The right play needs to be there. It needs to be a good job of guessing
it's basic
what
stuff.
the Texans are doing defensively.
It's a different offense with him.
I think the Texans can win this game, but also keep in mind they've lost to Denver, which is terrible, Chicago, which has been terrible up until this last game, the Chargers, who've been inconsistent, and Las Vegas, which has been terrible. They beat Jacksonville. who's, Jacksonville, and they tied the Colts on opening day. They've got nothing good on their resume.
And that's all fair. But we've seen time and time again with this team recently where they have nothing good on the resume and they beat this team.
Plus divisional rivalry.
And they have young talent. Dameon Pierce, he led the team last week with 117 scrimmage yards, and he has 4 games now in a row with over 100 scrimmage yards and a rushing touchdown in 3 of his last 4 games.
Danny Amendola shredded the Titans down there last year.
And Pierce leads all rookie running backs right now in rushing yards.
Now, Rex Burkhead is their number 2 receiver.
It's a lot
the
like the
Titans should be
Titans.
able to withstand
It's a
Rex
very
Burkhead.
similar offense.
Yeah. Sadly.
Yeah.
The defense needs to go win it.
Yeah, and they're capable. They've been doing that. Some other headlines with just injuries as we will get to our top games of the NFL week coming up. Let me pull up the injury reports here. So here's who's out so far that we know of through the league. Corey Davis for the Jets, he's out. A.J. Terrell, starting cornerback for Atlanta. Again, Atlanta and Carolina playing for the number 1 spot in the NFC South going into Week 8 this week. Jahan Dotson remains out with his hamstring issue in Washington as they take on Indianapolis. Kwity Paye for Indy is out on the defensive line. We mentioned Russell Wilson's playing in London against Jacksonville. Alan Lazard told reporters he was very unlikely to play this week. And keep in mind, today is the second practice for the Packers because they're playing on Monday, or Sunday night, excuse me. No, it's the third practice. They're playing Sunday night in Buffalo. Lazard told reporters he didn't think he was going to play, and he's been ruled out today by Matt LaFleur. DeAndre Swift is back for the Lions. I don't want to take the Lions straight up. I didn't mention them in my underdog picks here, but Swift was the gasoline to their engine.
He was the guy when their offense was cooking.
New Orleans is again without Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry, so if you have Chris Olave, lucky you in fantasy. James Conner's out for Arizona as the Cardinals will travel to take on the Vikings. And Van Jefferson is back for the Rams. He will play. He was activated recently off of IR. He's going to play. Cam Akers is out again. Is he hurt? Officially, he's not, which means I wonder if he's being shopped because they have Christian McCaffrey now.
Yeah.
Or excuse me, we're talking about the Rams now. Yeah, the Akers. They wanted Christian McCaffrey. I wonder if they're shopping him in exchange for one of these other backs across the league.
Something else. Something bigger than him.
And again, they're playing the 49ers.
49ers
have dominated
so
the Rams.
Beat up right now. I mean, it should be
more injuries.
Rams should give themselves a chance in this game.
49ers lead the league more injuries per snaps played, if you want to quantify that. Meaningful players.
Meaningful players.
Guys who have missed time. Hit us up with your thoughts on the upcoming week. OutKick 360 is where you can do that. We will preview the top games. We'll head to London. We'll talk a bit about the Jags and what's at stake for Jacksonville in this, because they were the talk of the league in September, and now we haven't heard much from them. They've played well as of late, but came up a yard short against the Giants last week in Jacksonville. The Vikings are hosting the Cardinals. We've got Rams and 49ers. We'll give you some numbers on there, plus Giants, Seahawks, and Bills, Packers. We'll preview those games coming up on OutKick 360. What's up? It's Hutton, Dockich, and Withrow from OutKick.com and OutKick 360. Don't add him with Dan Dockich. It's time for the 3 and 60. 3 questions, 60 seconds. It's that simple. Let's go.
What sport isn't in the Olympics but should be?
Flag football.
Would you rather try to tackle Derrick Henry or get tackled by Daniel Falele?
Knowing I've been tackled before, I don't want to try to tackle Derrick Henry because he would tackle me, so I'm going to serve myself up again for someone that I think would not hit me as hard.
If you could only watch PGA or Live for the rest of your life, what are you picking?
Live, because it's all about the money, all about the dollar, and that's what the PGA is about too. They should admit it. Talking NFL for Week 8. Is the season going by fast or slow for you guys? It's fast for me.
Every football season to me goes by way too fast. I feel like every year I get into this thing where, now we got all these games for months, and then I look up and it's halfway through every season.
I think kind of
And
fast.
I think, how do we get there?
That
It feels fast.
November
Yeah.
next week is pretty fast.
See, for me, normally once we hit Halloween, it's like a sprint to Christmas, and then it speeds up. And this part has been slow. Not this year. I don't know why. It feels like week 5, and it's week 8 across the NFL.
And I look at it from a college perspective oftentimes and think it feels like a week and a half ago we were in Knoxville for the Thursday night opener of the entire college football season.
You're right.
And then here we are well over halfway now through the season, getting to that point.
It's too short.
6th and Peabody, our location with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine in Music City, Nashville, Tennessee. Glad you're with us for OutKick 360 as we preview the top games of the NFL Week 8. Broncos and Jags. It says at Jacksonville. It's Jacksonville's home game. This is in London. 9:30 a.m. Eastern is the time for this, and this is on ESPN Plus. Wembley Stadium. The other games have been played at the Hotspur, Tottenham.
Tottenham Hotspur.
This is at Wembley. Denver has not scored a single point in the last 2 minutes or overtime of any game this season. Trevor Lawrence hasn't thrown a pick in the last 2 games, and last year in London he played very well. Chad, you brought up, is Jacksonville playing well in these games? Last year they did, and now he's going over there for the second time.
He's London's
Lawrence.
quarterback,
Chad.
Yeah.
Hutton, did it feel weird in your underdog moneyline winners to not pick a team that was an underdog against Jacksonville? Because that's very tempting to me. Just anyone. When Jacksonville's the favorite and a small favorite, I'm tempted to take the Broncos, even though we know how I feel about Hackett and Russell Wilson so far.
Can't be tempted to take the Broncos ever.
So they are one of 9 teams to play in 5 or more one-score games, Jacksonville. They're the only one to lose all of those. So they're losing. They're just not. They're covering.
Haven't learned.
Right?
how to
Maybe
win.
not this week. They're the favorite this week, so they've got to win outright and help out the cause here. But this is, Russell Wilson's back off the injury, and now you hope Trevor Lawrence can pick it up and start going as a year 2 quarterback. Those year 2 guys are not doing well right now.
Have to learn how to win. And you can't help but feel like, it's just that they've lost so long there, even though a ton of guys who are part of that losing for a long time aren't there anymore.
They feel a lot like Minnesota last year. Minnesota lost a lot of close games. We went through the score, 3-2, 1-score game at the end against Baltimore, because they're Justin Tucker can hit a 66-yarder, things like it. They're not last week they lost on the 1-yard line.
Yeah.
The last play of the game. Either way, not many people are going to watch this game. ESPN Plus only, and Jags Broncos. It's not going to draw you in. You agree or disagree?
I agree, and I
don't think many people know it's on ESPN Plus.
I'm very interested just in this experiment of Jacksonville, Shah Khan, and what they're trying to do in London. To me, that's the most interesting facet of this. I'd like to see some sort of studied, I don't know if it's an article or a show about it or something to see what the impact is of Jacksonville Jags fans in London.
Well, they're doing.
Are they making a dent?
The last time the NFL was there was week 5 or week 6 with Green Bay. Can't remember when they played the Giants. But Goodell was there and had the press conference and said in the vision of the league, they're going to have their own division there.
Yep.
They're going to start with 4 teams in Europe.
Seems a little much.
Well, they're doing that for travel, because if you do that, then you're cutting down on a ton of travel because your division games will be in the same country.
Right, and then you could come to the States and stay for 3 weeks or a month. Here's my my big thing on will people watch it. Is ESPN going to be promoting it against its own pregame show? Samantha Ponder, is she going to be saying,
maybe they'll do some live look-ins or something?
On
I don't know. Maybe
ESPN
so.
Plus,
maybe so.
Flip over.
I'm dumb enough to watch this, but
I'll put it on in the background.
It's
I won't have it in a hotel TV, but
normally
I'll put it on my
you wake up for
iPad.
these and you watch them on NFL Network while you get ready for church or get ready to go to your own game. I don't know if that's the case this week.
I think they're going to promote it.
Oh,
I think there's going to be an effort.
It's their game.
They're not going to act like it's not going on. They're going to be doing either look-ins or promoting that right now on ESPN Plus this game is happening.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to very much take all of this is feeding the same bucket ultimately.
Yeah.
So even if people turn away from our pregame show, it's not going to affect the business. So they're going to want people to go to that game.
2-5, Jacksonville. They need to return with their third win.
It's big.
Pivot point. That would be a nice boost for them if they can finish second in the division, in a bad division. But they've had back-to-back years of the number 1 overall pick. They need to pick 10th to 15th.
And they are better than Houston. I don't know that they'll get to the range you're talking about in the draft, but they're better than Houston. So
well, there are a lot
be
of bad teams is my point. I think, they're going to be battling the Broncos for a top 10 pick.
Yeah.
They don't need it. It's time for them, with all the draft picks they've had, to
12.
get better.
Yeah.
I think it's just all about Trevor Lawrence's development for them. I mean, getting second in the AFC South would be nice, showing some progress, which they have so far this year in close losses. It's not really showing up wins, losses so far. Could this weekend. But my judgment on the Jags and the direction of that franchise, the biggest one is going to be, is Trevor Lawrence getting better? Does he look like a guy who could be special in the NFL? And then way down the list, number 2 is a lot of other things with that franchise. But it's all about him to me.
They're also all in on Travis Etienne because they just traded James Robinson.
Yeah. They seem organizationally not to like James Robinson, old regime and new regime.
That seems to be the one good thing that Urban Meyer left behind was the decision to draft
and
Etienne.
Lucky for Etienne, he got hurt before the season even started. Vikings at 5-1, hosting the Arizona Cardinals. Minnesota's coming off a bye week, but the Cardinals are off the mini bye. They played on Thursday night in Week 7.
It's a rested game.
Yes. Vikings offense trying to get back on track because a week after they converted 12 of 15 third downs against the Bears, they were 2 of 15 against Miami. Now, they won that game. Justin Jefferson was the offense last week, but now the offense in Arizona is DeAndre Hopkins. We pointed this out yesterday, but 27 snaps in the slot. That's 17 more than any other game he's played with Arizona, and this was his first game back last week. And Arizona's going to blitz Kirk Cousins a lot. So that either means that Jefferson's going to get his. That either means that Minnesota takes off and takes advantage with some screens and short passes on the blitz, and they get chunk yards and big touchdowns, or Arizona's going to affect this game with the turnover and flip field position and win close. And I'm betting on the Cardinals to just kind of reset the order a bit in the NFC North.
Minnesota's had its bye, so this is significant that they've yielded the 10th most yards to wide receivers, even including having a week off. That bodes well for DeAndre Hopkins to pick up where he left off with a 100-yard game in his first return, and I may be mentioning him again later when we get to plus money props.
Good. The one thing to watch for in this, the Vikings have forced 10 turnovers in 6 games. Arizona's got to protect the football. But they do. Hopkins, double coverage, throw it up to him. Take a chance.
Do we start talking about the Vikings as a contender in the NFC if they win this game?
Yes. I mean, they're going to be 6-1. They're the Giants, but more playmakers on offense.
And without press.
No one's talking about them for a team that only has 1 loss right now.
You're right.
No one.
Let me look at their upcoming schedule just as we kind of forecast the future here, as Chad predicts that I'm losing my outright bet. Let's see. They've got the Commanders next week. Then they're in Buffalo, hosting the Cowboys, hosting New England.
All right, so those Cowboys and Buffalo games will tell us how legit.
And then they get another good
this
story
is an
this
NFC
year.
Game they
get the
win.
Jets at home. But, I mean, they still have games late in the year in Detroit, Indy at home, in Chicago. The January 1st, they have the return game against the Packers.
But tiebreaker scenarios, just keep in mind, NFC versus AFC.
They need
this game's going to factor in more in a tiebreaker scenario as you try to stack things than a loss to New England will for them. For instance, and if the division's open for Green Bay, keep in mind they're playing in Buffalo.
Yeah, I was just
they're rooting hard for the Cardinals.
Extend
this week.
your lead because Buffalo is taking care of Green Bay this weekend, and you can gain another game.
But also, talking about Vikings in Buffalo, they're favored this weekend. They'll be favored against the Commanders. They could be 8-1 headed to Buffalo.
Yep.
On November 13th.
Yep.
I'd like to get them on a prime time game so I could see them because I haven't really seen much of them.
They've got one coming up against the Patriots, but I think it's the game. It's the Thursday night game for Thanksgiving, I think.
It's all right. I'll take that.
Yeah. 49ers Rams. Very interesting here because Christian McCaffrey, it's no secret the Rams tried to get him. And it's no secret that last year the 49ers wanted Matthew Stafford. Now, that's been the open secret out there. And we know the Rams ended up with him. They go on to win the Super Bowl. Now the 49ers get McCaffrey. They're all in. Like this is a boom or bust move based on the salary and what they gave up for him. They've already given up the picks. Keep in mind for Trey Lance, which is now not there because Jimmy G's in for the injured Trey Lance. And the 49ers defense typically takes care of business against Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford, and even previously, before Stafford even got there. They have won 7 regular season games over L.A., and there's a reason they're favored here on the road. The Rams have not been good. They're nowhere close to the type of efficiency we've seen from them last year. And now we see how they work in McCaffrey a bit more. And this is now the second straight game. The Rams are coming off a bye. Second straight game the Rams have tried to game plan for Christian McCaffrey because their last game was against Carolina.
I don't think we have final injury reports, but Deebo Samuel didn't practice Wednesday and Thursday. Juwan Jennings didn't practice Wednesday and Thursday. Eric Armstead didn't practice Wednesday and Thursday.
Davies got us. Deebo Samuel out. But again,
that's not good.
That's a Christian McCaffrey-like adjustment.
Still, you'd clearly want both of them. That's tough for the 49ers, who we talked about as they made the McCaffrey move, becoming a team that could be favored in the NFC overall. They are going through, you mentioned, their losses to injury games amongst prominent, important players is tops in the league. They got to get out of that. They got to get healthy.
And just pointing this out, Kansas City is a different level. Kansas City ripped the Niners defense apart. They're a good defense. 529 yards, 44 points, and 8 gains of 20 yards or more.
That's a tough.
If the Rams, they should dissect that film coming off the bye and try to attack the 49ers the same way. The difference is their offensive line is not good. And last I checked, Nick Bosa's playing. Get ready.
Can't figure out their second receiver, the Rams.
It's a hamstring for Deebo Samuel. That could linger. And let's keep going. Giants Seahawks. Chad, I'm taking the Giants on the road. How do you feel about that? 6-1 Giants. I'm saying they're getting a 7-1. Seahawks play very well at home, and they play well all year, really. Very efficient. And this is a Giants team that's led through Saquon Barkley, and their defense is extremely opportunistic.
I mean, you can't bet against Geno Smith, right? I mean, the way he's played this year, which
hard
is
to
something
do.
I never thought that I'd say.
Seahawks favored by 3.
They're only 4-3. I mean, they've been great, but they're only 4-3.
They're 4-3 and in first place in the NFC West, though. And we all would have had them at the bottom by a mile coming into the season.
But the Giants are 6-1, and they find a way every week.
Yeah, it's a huge game.
It's a great game
for both teams, and I think it's a really good game. But if the Giants can go to Seattle and win the way the Seahawks have been playing, again, I don't think the Seahawks are here to stay. This is going to fall off at some point. But this is a team that is they're a game out of first place, the Giants, traveling to another first place team. To go that far across the country and get a win would be enormous for this Giants team. Here's the issue that I have with the Giants, though. They get rid of Kadarius Toney, and I know he wasn't a factor there, wasn't getting along with the coaching staff, never really did anything. But Saquon Barkley's very good. How long can they do this without having anything else truly dynamic?
Yeah.
Like Daniel Jones can get loose for a 40-yard run, almost every game. He can make a big play with his legs. But outside of that, I keep waiting for the other shoe to fall because I don't know how they're doing it.
I think they like the Titans. They got a coach who figures out a way, and they've got a formula, and he's not afraid to just plug guys in and go. They've got a wide receiving core that lacks dynamic players, just like here in Nashville. And Daboll's doing his best Mike Vrabel imitation. That's a damn good imitation.
And
He's
they're
better.
6-1
He beat him head to head, and he's got a better team right now.
And I mean, how many games did? Who did they just trade?
They just traded Kadarius Toney.
Kadarius Toney. So
Yeah.
they've got Darius Slayton still there. Toney, I believe, has missed his last 5 games with a hamstring.
And they've got a
issue.
Galladay problem. I don't know if he ever emerges to do something.
Well, here's what's interesting. So they're the 3rd team in NFL history to be 6-1, but have trailed in every game that they've won. And the last team to do it was the 2000 Oakland Raiders. I mean, this does not happen often. So, to your point, this is, Vrabel gets the credit here for winning those 1-score games. That's exactly what Daboll's doing. And here's the other stat that goes along with that. If you're winning close and you're pulling comebacks, your quarterback is going to get credit for that, right? Daniel Jones is the first quarterback in NFL history to lead 5 game-winning drives in the first 7 games of a regular season. That is crazy to me. Daniel Jones owns that new record.
I will say,
And who would ever describe him as clutch?
No.
If you just ask for a description right now, Daniel Jones is a clutch guy.
16 other quarterbacks did it 4 times. He's done it 5.
The Giants have gotten a
numbers
lot
don't
of
lie.
hype. Giants have gotten a lot of hype. Daniel Jones has not gotten a lot of hype. That's the first I've heard of that.
No.
And that's massive. Out of New York, not hearing a lot about that.
It is incredible, though, that I keep coming back to this about the other shoe eventually going to drop, because here you have a team that's 6-1 with 1 loss, and it was a make or break here for their quarterback, and I'm not hearing a thing about, man, the Giants figured out their quarterback situation now. And they're 6-1.
Well, they've also got more Cowboys and Eagles ahead of them, which is challenging.
Yeah, some big primetime games coming up for them for sure. Again, that's 6-1, 4-3. That is the only game featuring 2 teams with a winning record in the same game this week. Packers and Bills, Sunday Night Football. This will rate well, but I don't know for how long. Bills are favored by 11. And it's been a while since we've seen Aaron Rodgers, an underdog like this. Bills are coming off a bye. The Packers have lost 3 straight games. Green Bay did not convert a 3rd down at all last week. And that's the first time that's happened in Rodgers' 234 starts throughout his career. He has not thrown a touchdown pass in 2 weeks. And that's never happened in his career either. I know he had the quote where he's like, maybe this is just what we need. The Bills are just on a different plane, right? Like, this is a different shelf life here. This is not the week. You guys agree?
Yeah,
No. This isn't happening for the Packers.
How quickly can the rest of the Packers do what Aaron Rodgers is asking? To simplify, to pay attention to details.
No Allen Lazard.
To not make the mistakes that he's seeing out there. Does it turn around in Buffalo? My answer to that is no. This is not the game that turns around.
Paul, you doubling the spread?
I'm not doubling it. 20 wouldn't surprise me, though, so close. I think it's just a bad timing, bad schedule draw for the Packers.
No weather issue, by the way. I always look that up this time of year in Buffalo. Nothing. It's like 50 degrees Sunday night.
Very unfortunate timing for the Packers.
Bills favored by 11. That may be the biggest upset. Starting the season in Vegas, the Packers had the best odds of winning the Super Bowl.
And now it's a double-digit line.
Yeah.
Usually I would order in to my Houston hotel room, Cajun or Mexican, but I might go out.
Papacitos?
Yeah, I might go out with that game.
That's where I would go.
What is the the prime rib fajita?
El Tiempo.
Ninfas?
El Tiempo is where we went. No, it's a
filet
fajita.
Yes.
I'll be having that tomorrow afternoon. Now, the question is, will I also be having that Sunday night?
That was my most memorable meal while in Houston, was the filet fajita. That was great.
El Tiempo is great, and then Coach Mack took me to Ninfas, and
changed your world?
It was incredible.
Do you feel like a new man now?
I feel like they went across the border to refry their beans. You know what I mean? It was that good.
This is authentic. We got a truck running across the border right now. They'll be back for lunch tomorrow, for lunch shift.
PK's going to pay for that dinner, and then lunch, and then dinner again at El Tiempo when he gives you the props for the week. across the NFL. It's next on OutKick 360.
Was there a moment that you always look back to from Black Hawk Down and you said to yourself in that moment, I am not making it out? Like, I will not survive today because of this one thing.
It was kind of the entire day, the entire night. There was a portion of time, I think, in the middle of the night where things kind of calmed down and it wasn't as chaotic, and we were just kind of sitting waiting for guys in helicopters to get extricated and things like that. And it wasn't until the sun started to kind of peak back up where you're like, oh, this is going to turn back on again. But for the initial assault and 2 or 3 times that I went out into the city, it was just, I don't think any of us are going to make it out alive. And so every time we would kind of get back and be secure and all right, get more ammo, and we're going back out to try and find this other crash site. And I didn't think that it was happening for any of us. I kind of came to peace. I was just telling my son about this actually the other day, but I kind of came to peace with, okay, if I get hit in the chest, like I've got a plate carrier, hopefully that stops it. If I get hit in the arms or the legs, chances are I'll live. And if I get hit anywhere else, it's probably going to be pretty quick and traumatic and over. So I hope that I remember thinking specifically in the middle of the afternoon, I hope that I can just like look at the blue sky and have something peaceful to look at, not this whole, what I'm looking at in front of me. I hope that's not my last moments. And that kind of gave me a little bit of peace.
This one, I picked it because the caption's just frankly funny. And it's also geotagged your mom's house. It says balls deep, as we used to say, long before it was a popular term. The meaning to us referred to how far into bad guy territory we were. These are a few picks from that day and also a pick of us getting ready to go. We lost a mate on this day, Andy Fernandez. Although he was brand new to the unit, he had just been assigned, he left his mark, and will forever be etched into historic endeavors. R.I.P. Andy. So I know you probably can't get into specifics. The caption's hilarious, the top half of it anyways. But
Yeah.
Are you able to say anything about what this Instagram post is in relation to?
That was post gunfight. I think it's been talked about in some book, someplace. So I don't read any military history stuff. So I don't know. People will send me things sometimes where like, oh, this must be from this book that so-and-so wrote about. Like, I don't know. It was kind of post gunfight. We were outnumbered and surrounded by, 130, 150 dudes, and had, at least beat everybody back enough that, that was kind of that moment when that picture was taken. So we didn't necessarily know at the time, like, it was any gunfight is a scary moment, and, you don't really necessarily know the outcome. But it was almost, for me and where I was, it was almost a fun gunfight. Like, they couldn't hit me where I was, and they couldn't hit my group where we were based on the terrain. And so we were almost kind of laughing, running back and forth, shooting at these guys over here, go grab some more ammo, go shoot at these guys over here. And so it wasn't, a terrifying moment. It turned into not to be a terrifying moment. But then we started hearing radio calls, hey, we got some people hit and injured, and okay, well, now this is a serious thing. It's not a funny thing anymore. And if anything, the post kind of reflects that, where,
Right.
Initially, hey, haha, fun. This was, a good day. And then, somebody paid the ultimate price that day. And but that's about as much as I can say.
Glad you're with us across the OutKick Network. 6th and Peabody, our location, with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. You can join us anytime you're in Nashville, and you can join us online. OutKick.com is where we're streaming live, as well as this great radio station you're listening to right now. And you're going to be happy you're listening right now. Paul's about to make you a little cash. OutKick.com/bet. That's OutKick.com/bet. It is time for PKs plus money props of the NFL weekend. Let's go.
Jalen Waddle, under 63.5 receiving yards. That's at plus 100. I just got a feeling that it's going to be particularly big for Tyreek Hill. 3 of the last 5 games, Waddle, 23 yards, 39 yards, 69 yards. That 69's a tick over this. But he had 2 big games in the other 2 games there. But I think this is worth a play.
And you stay in Detroit.
Yes, I stay in Detroit. Lions have scored 6 points in their last 2 games, which we've talked about. They were shut out and they had 2 field goals. Miami's giving up 23.6 points a game. Detroit under 23.5 team total points in this game at plus 100. I think that one's pretty easy play. And then I've got 2 anytime touchdown scores. DeAndre Hopkins, anytime touchdown, plus 125. This is at Minnesota. I just talked about Minnesota has given up the 10th most receiving yards to wide receivers, despite the fact they've already had a bye. Hopkins came back from suspension, had 10 catches for over 100 yards, didn't get in the end zone. He gets in the end zone this week. Michael Carter is the starter for the Jets, who had the run game going with Breece Hall. They will keep it going, and Michael Carter will find his way into the end zone for the Jets. Plus 170.
Are they beating the Patriots?
All winners.
They might beat the
Patriots. Michael Carter scores the game winner against the Patriots. How about that?
All winners.
We're back next.
Says.
Final hour on OutKick 360.
All winners.
Dockich believes that Matt Ryan, within a couple of weeks, is going to be in the MVP race. The Colts are absolutely horrible. They're not well coached.
I agree.
He hates their team. But yet he thinks their quarterback is going to be in the MVP race. Why?
Hey, let me explain. I don't think he's going to be the MVP. But these 2 games, when the Colts win, it has been because of defense and Matt Ryan, 4th quarter, playing well. All right? I'm saying these 2 games set it up. If they lose these 2 games, today and then against the Commanders, season gets tough. They got the Eagles. They've got to go to New England. They've got to go to Vegas. But if the Colts win today, it's going to be because of Matt Ryan late in the game. And you guys know quarterbacks are here for one thing. Late game, 4th quarters in the NFL, and that would be every game that they win is going to be because of Matt Ryan, and people will start talking about it. Not saying he is, but start talking about it.
Dan, we do something on our show where I put people on the couch. And it's not anything dirty. Don't worry about that. But it's basically where I play the role of psychiatrist. And I put someone down, and we get down into what the issues are that would lead someone to have such a terrible opinion of Matt Ryan in the NFL. And what I think is going on here, Dan, is that you are so good at being a contrarian with indie media. You hate them. They hate you. You always go the opposite way. So once they all got on board with you and didn't like this Colts team and started questioning things that you questioned, you decided to go the other way against them towards Matt Ryan because you will always be on the opposite side of them.
Well,
Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong about most of it. I want to be on the opposite side of indie media because they're morons. However, I started looking at this, and I'm like, wait, Colts are bad. But if they win today, and they win against Washington, that's a 4-game winning streak, and it will only be because of Matt Ryan. Yes, you are right-ish. Because whenever I side with the morons of the indie print media, that's when I need to quit. But I will say this, looking at it objectively, the dude isn't great, and at times is horrible, but I tell you this, you give him the ball down 1 score, he's pretty good.
Dan, when was the last guy who, quote, isn't great and sometimes horrible that won the MVP?
I didn't say he was going to win
NFL.
it.
Oh, that was in the MVP race.
Trent Dilfer. I don't know. I just made that up. Ryan
Never
Tannehill. I'm not saying win. This is where you get it wrong. I'm saying you're going to all of a sudden go, wait a second.
Matt Ryan is going to make history this year.
Tell me.
And it's not because of making the MVP race for Dan Dockich. Matt Ryan is going to set the new record for most fumbles in a season by a quarterback. He has 11, and it's week 7. The record is like 25 or 26.
Gabriel.
Is it?
Yeah. All-time fumbler, a quarterback, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Hey,
My brother
this has
was
been a
big
great tailgate for us.
Yeah.
This has been fun, but I would like to put on the record, OutKick 361, don't at me, nothing, after today.
That's presumptuous.
Well, you get to win when we come to Indy. Just like that, the final hours here, guys. OutKick 360, 6th and Peabody, our location with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Coming up, we've got Austin Price, Volquest.com. We will get ready for top game in the SEC. It again includes the Tennessee Volunteers hosting the Kentucky Wildcats. Austin will be with us in about 20 minutes from right now. We'll see if he's as confident as
you guys are.
Yeah, Chad's not on board yet. Not as you think they're winning, but just not majorly.
I'm going to have.
Oh no, you're predicting. Hang on.
No. I put people on the couch, right?
Yeah.
I may need Austin to put me on the couch on this one because I agree with everything you guys are saying. This team is different, but there's some psychologically beaten down brain cells still floating around in my head right now.
Well, that can happen against Bama or Georgia or Florida, but please,
true.
Not
the series
UK.
history's been a little bit better against Kentucky.
There you go. And the jerseys, the helmets. It's time.
It's. I hope what you said, Hutton, comes true.
Okay.
And then it's a beatdown.
Paul, a cold?
Yes.
Or just promoting Yeehaw? I can't tell.
No, cold and promoting Yeehaw.
Both.
Yeah, both.
All right, fair enough. He's going to take that jacket to the World Series.
I have not yet picked out my World Series outfit.
Are you someone that gets a ticket to a big event and you start thinking immediately, what am I going to wear to this big event?
No, but I need to be I need a very neutral outfit.
My wife, we're going to an event in a week or two, and I have been asked no short of 15 to 20 times, what are women wearing to this certain event? And
we never know.
No idea. I have no idea. You're going to have to figure this out on your own. No clue.
Tough.
No clue.
I try to ask.
All weekend long, you can watch, of course, the World Series, which starts tonight. We'll preview that game a bit later. Paul will be at Game 2. You can watch the games here at 6th and Peabody. All the best college football games on all the screens, the biggest indoor screen in Nashville, and, of course, NFL Sunday and Monday night. They got you covered as well. And while you're here, be sure to check out the Rising Hope IPA. And we're pleased to be joined in studio by Chris Lovett with Rising Hope IPA and the Country Malt Group, and John Overby, who's our champion from our race earlier in the summer.
What a race it was.
You know, that's his real title, right? But he is the head brewer with Yeehaw Beer here at 6th and Peabody.
Did you see that move, that savvy move by Chris, by the way, a man who clearly knows television? He saw it, and he just so subtly moved his arm out of the shot to present almost a Vanna White type presentation of this beautiful trophy that belongs to John.
They know how to do trophies
that was great.
here. I mean, that trophy would make you think he won a road race.
Can we drink some of this beer out of that trophy when we're done talking about it?
Absolutely. And,
that's the next step.
So the beer, 100% of the Rising Hope IPA beer here at Yeehaw all weekend, and we'll learn where else across the country, goes to National Pediatric Cancer, their foundation, and raising money to help find a cure for this terrible disease. All ingredients and packaging donated by Yeehaw Brewing here. Overby's Rising Hope ingredients. He made this. We'll find out what's in it as we do a cheers. Guys, welcome in studio. Hope you're doing well.
We are.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Chris, tell us about Rising Hope IPA, how this all came about, and how it's spread now across the country, across the region.
So the beer started probably 6 years ago just as a collaboration between two breweries in Florida and the Pediatric Cancer Foundation, which is also based in Tampa. So Florida Avenue Brewing, Cigar City Brewing, the Pediatric Cancer Foundation came together and said, let's start a program where we can make some beer to help raise some money for helping find a cure for pediatric cancer. And we did it just between the two breweries for the first 2 years, and then I left Cigar City, got a job with my current employer at Country Malt Group, and it was my goal to try to take this thing national. So we've gotten it up to about 40 breweries across the country doing it this year.
I think it's awesome. It's a great idea, and the logos, the packaging with all of it looks awesome. John, you've always done it right with all the different Yeehaw beers you can get on tap here at 6th and Peabody. What's in the IPA this year for Rising Hope?
So we got donated by Chris and other companies. So 100% of the malt hops and the white peach extract was all, or puree, excuse me, was all donated by Country Malt Group and the other companies. So basically, it's Canada Malting Company.
Yep.
What was the other brand?
Great Western.
Great Western. Yakima Chief hops and Amaretti puree.
And you've got to put everything together. And you made this?
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
How much? Like, how much did you make? Because what I'm told is it's here until you're out. Yeah. I'm assuming you've got more than 1 day's worth here.
Yeah, we have 20 barrels worth.
Okay.
That was donated, which is
that's one Tennessee game.
Right.
That's one college football Saturday for you guys.
That's equivalent to 620 gallons of beer.
It does have almost a Tennessee type tint to it, also with the color. Paul, do me a favor and taste this.
I have.
Yeah, cheers.
Because I tasted it and I immediately thought this is something Paul's going to love.
Cheers. Cheers to what you guys are doing, and we'll try this. So I already know that there's
I love it, and the taste.
Good.
There's a white
the
peach.
taste lingers.
Is that right?
Which I like.
Chris, how much leeway do the breweries have on putting their own spin on this? Because not everybody's going to have the same ingredients or the same flavoring.
So the recipe is created by Florida Avenue and Cigar City every year, and then it's distributed out as a kind of a template, and then the breweries from there can take it and put their own spin on it to make it match who they are as a brewery, match their local clientele. If they want to do something, truly unique with it, we give them, the flexibility to get out there, take what we started as a blueprint and make it truly their own.
So, John, if people are coming to Nashville, obviously we tell everyone to come here to 6th and Peabody. Terrific spot. Hutton, you had mentioned that it's here until it's gone, right?
Yes.
Is this the one spot? Is this the one spot where you can get this on tap right now? This version we're tasting?
Yep, absolutely. It's only here.
Okay, but it's starting now and until it's gone, right?
Yep.
All right, we want to make sure to get the word out to as many people around the Nashville area. If you're coming in to visit, order this beer because it's going to go for a great cause.
And you can also just you can on Instagram, you can go to Brewing Funds the Cure. You can find out where other locations are. BrewingFundsTheCure.com as well. Follow at Yeehaw
we'll
Brewing
tweet that out
there
also,
as well,
that link.
and you can get all the information on where it is across the country. And Chris, how many states are involved now?
We got about 40 states. If
that's
you go
that's
to
awesome.
If you go to the National Pediatric website, they have a map where you can click on. It'll tell you which breweries in every state do it, so you can find a brewery near you and go there and support the same cause there.
Talk me a little bit through the fruit element, and then talk me through how many tries you give this until you get to something that you say that's it.
Recipe changes every year, so we look for that inspiration from the designing brewmasters to come up with something that we feel is going to gravitate towards the consumer and get. We want something that's going to be super popular, something that's going to go to a lot of pull through, because every penny is going towards helping kids, helping children, helping I mean, 43 kids a day get diagnosed with pediatric cancer, and all we got to do is drink a beer to help them.
Yeah, and follow along on Twitter at Brewing Funds the Cure. I'm curious about the growth of this charitable effort with you, Chris. You talked about the origins of it down in Florida. How quickly has this spread? And you're in 40 states right now, as you said. I mean, where does it go from here as you're talking about now having a successful charity this year, but what happens in 2023?
The goal is to get it to all 50 states, D.C., and then get everybody making 20 barrels. And if that happens, we're raising $500,000 a year.
That's incredible. Do you know the 10 states you're not in
I do.
right now?
I do.
Can you say, we may have someone that's watching right now. We just had someone on our YouTube chat say they moved away from the South years ago, and they're watching in Eugene, Oregon right now. I don't know if Oregon's one of your states, but let's get the word out.
There is a brewery that is participating in Oregon, so they go on the website. I don't know them all off the top of my head. I've got a list.
Give us a couple. Do you know a couple of them?
West Virginia.
There you go.
We could use some
Huge
support in West
following
Virginia.
West Virginia with the show. They love us.
Beer
there.
drinking state.
Mountaineer fans
Country
are
Roads.
huge.
We're big fans of that song. They love us in West Virginia.
Yeah, so if we go to the website, you can check the 10 states, and if you're friends with somebody that owns a brewery or works at a brewery and you want to get out there and ask them to support us, then that would be great. Any support we can get from the community would be amazing.
So the thing I think is really cool, the branding, the logo of the can itself, you've got stats on pediatric cancer and research and where the money's going. 100% of all funds when you buy the beer is going with the proceeds to pediatric cancer research through their foundation. And Chris, you've got one of the stats that stood out to me. So the children that survive this, survive cancer, by the time they're like 40 or 50, they're having major issues again.
95% of the people that go through the current treatments available for pediatric cancer, by the time they hit 45 years old, are having major health issues that are directly resulting from the treatments that were administered to them to fight cancer. Because the treatments that are given to children are the same treatments that are given to adults. So what they're throwing at, a 6'2", 250-pound adult, maybe lesser volume, but a similar treatment to a child. And the goal is to find less invasive, less toxic, less aggressive treatments to help these kids.
And again, like every dollar matters, every beer matters in this case. This weekend at 6th and Peabody, John, roughly how many beers are in 30 barrels?
In 30 barrels?
How many did you make?
Per barrel.
20 barrels.
20
so
barrels.
It's 31 gallons per barrel. So yeah, we made 20 barrels, which is 620 gallons.
How many pints in a gallon?
In a gallon, I know at least.
Is it 160 pours off a half barrel?
Yeah.
Did you guys know you'd be doing math when you came in here today?
No.
Coming in.
We didn't sign up.
We don't do it either. That's why we're asking you.
We're in beer, so we don't have to do math.
Yeah.
Davey, break out the periodic table next.
Here's
please.
a better,
We're going to
here's
go
a better
through all
example.
the list of elements.
How many Tennessee-Alabama games would it take to empty out the 20 barrels, John?
Half a game.
How close is the game?
So you have a weekend to get here at 6th and Peabody.
So here's the goal, and it's an attainable goal. Let's sell this beer out, especially here at 6th and Peabody, but wherever it's being sold quickly, so we can help this terrific cause and figure things out with pediatric cancer.
Hey, Chris, just finally, you're donating the ingredients here. Is it the same amount every year, or if we sell out early this year, can we make more next year?
I'm sure there's conversations that somebody in my company can have about making that happen.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot. We're trying to, we're setting a goal here.
If it were up to me, there'd be no limit.
Right.
You're not going to say no to a kid with cancer.
Absolutely not.
Amen.
Great work, guys.
Fantastic job, both of you. Chris Lovett with Rising Hope IPA, and you can check out the Rising Hope IPA here at 6th and Peabody with Yeehaw Beer. As long as it lasts, and every dollar raised and the proceeds from the beer, every glass, goes to pediatric cancer research with the National Pediatric Cancer Foundation. And big thanks to John Overby as well, our champion.
John,
Trophies
please
behind
show
him.
us that. Present that trophy of yours. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, the 6th and P Grand Prix, which we had back in August. John Overby, the head brewer here at Yeehaw Beer, took home the trophy. Is your name on that yet?
Yep, it is.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Oh, that's great.
The first one on there.
Terrific trophy.
Chad, go ahead and tell him whose name will be on there next year.
Well, if I was eligible the first year, it would have already been on there. But, if I'm eligible next year for a championship,
they
then
booted you out in no time.
It'll be
of
on
that
my
first
Sleepy
race.
Danny with by far the worst performance. John was terrific.
Sleepy Danny was
Sleepy
pitiful.
Danny was just a complete disaster in the race, and I easily overtook him.
BrewingFundsTheCure.org. I said .com earlier. It's BrewingFundsTheCure.org to learn more and help out. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you. Cheers.
Thank you.
Hey, cheers to you guys, yes.
And great job with the ingredients here,
Appreciate
John.
it.
It's,
Thank you.
Very good. Hey, we're back with Austin Price. We preview Tennessee and Kentucky, and who knows, we'll finish off this and have some more on OutKick 360.
Barrel number 1 down.
Rising Hope is a part of Brewing Funds the Cure, which is designed by the National Pediatric Cancer Foundation to raise money, awareness, in support of pediatric cancer all around the country. All the money we raise, no matter how we do it, goes to one place, and that's to fund less toxic and more targeted treatments for kids battling cancer. So what is Rising Hope? Well, it started in Tampa, Florida. Our first partners were Cigar City and Brew Bus came together to say, let's do something to make a difference.
While I was at Cigar City, we were approached by the team of the National Pediatric Cancer Foundation to create a program to help raise some money and raise awareness. I believe it was Anthony Derby at Florida Avenue Brewing that thought, we can do a beer, we can do better, we can do what we do best to help raise money and raise awareness. We turned that into the first year Rising Hope. One of the goals I had was to do everything I could to take this program national. We took this to the leadership team with CMG and we scaled it up, and we got buy-in from Brian Bayshard, the founder of our company, to do everything we can to help the National Pediatric Cancer Foundation really scale this program up.
Quickly, with partners all around the country joining in just 3 years, we've grown it to a nationwide initiative touching almost every single state and raised almost $500,000 already. But we can do more, and we need more to help fund the cure for pediatric cancer. What people don't realize is 43 kids every day are diagnosed with pediatric cancer, and only 4% of all government funds dedicated to cancer research is going towards pediatric cancer. Treatments have not changed for decades and are extremely toxic, leading to long-term health effects because of the treatment they receive. So it's our mission to find less toxic and more targeted treatments to not only defeat the cancer, but to make sure they live a happy and healthy life afterwards.
This year's Rising Hope IPA, I get big notes of candied white peach and grapefruit. The red wheat gives the beer a real pillowy body. It's great foundation for throwing the peach and all those hops on. Hop varieties really play well with the peach, I think. They complement one another while still maintaining, their pine and resinous, almost dank-like notes. Kind of tastes and smells like those candied peach gummy rings.
The way you can help is you can go to nationalpcf.com, find out who made the beer this year, and go support them. Go have a pint, grab a 6-pack, grab a case or two, and do the easiest thing you can do to help fight pediatric cancer, and that's have a beer.
This is our 6th year of being a part of this collaboration. It's a really humbling experience of how it started. We're really proud to be a part of this collaboration to raise funds so that they can get the treatment that they need.
I want to thank you for supporting this year's Rising Hope and all the breweries across the country that are supporting it. Let's get out there, let's grab a pint, and let's do our part to help raise some money for the National Pediatric Cancer Foundation.
Some sad news to pass along as we come back. OutKick 360 across the OutKick network. 6th and Peabody, our location, with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Austin Price is about to join us, but we'll pass this along through the SEC. Legendary Georgia football coach Vince Dooley has passed away at the age of 90. 1980 national championship, won 6 SEC championships, the winningest coach in Georgia history, and an all-time great for college football.
It's a sadly dying breed of Southern head coaching legends and just a true gentleman in Vince Dooley in every sense of the word. Sad time. There's going to be a lot of memories floating around with especially Georgia fans, but a legend in the SEC, Vince Dooley.
I met him briefly at an event with a local station whenever his son Derek was the head coach at Tennessee, and he was extremely nice and generous. Not nearly as energetic as Derek Dooley was trying to fire up the UT faithful at the time, but full of stories and loves talking ball.
Yeah.
So anyway, rest in peace, Vince Dooley.
One other quick story to pass along as well. Lee Corso is not going to be on College Game Day tomorrow, just announced. This is, I believe, the 3rd or 4th time he's missed. Health reasons. We wish him well.
Yes.
He woke up at a game, a show in Clemson, was feeling under the weather, didn't do the show, at least for the next week, maybe the next 2. Then he returned, and now it's been announced. College Game Day tomorrow is at Jackson State for whoever they're playing with Deion Sanders as the head coach, and Lee Corso will not be a part of the show. So we wish him well.
Austin Price, Volquest.com. He joins us as we talk about the game of the week in the SEC, Tennessee and Kentucky. Hey, Pete, good to see you, man, and it's always great seeing you repping the Atlanta Athletic Club.
Thanks, guys. How are you doing?
Doing well, man. I'm extremely confident in Tennessee in this game, covering. Chad's he's hedging a bit. He's right on the line of wanting to jump in, but he's apprehensive.
A little shy.
Chad, give your reasoning.
Austin, help me out here, okay? Because oftentimes with these guys, I'll put someone on the couch and be their shrink for a little bit. I feel like I need that from you right now because everything in my brain watching these two teams play, especially every snap of Tennessee's season, just like you've watched them, and watching a lot of Kentucky tells me Tennessee at home, it's going to be a special atmosphere at night. Their offense is clicking in every possible way. Kentucky's pretty pedestrian offensively. They got a good defense. Tennessee should win this game going away. But there's something in the back of my head that keeps coming back to, is this going to be the game they just show up and play terribly? Because I think that's what it's going to take, honestly, for Tennessee. Please help me out of this.
Get on in the water, Withrow. The water's fine, buddy.
Is it warm? Is it comfy?
Yeah. Well, if it's warm, it wasn't me. I just don't see this game being close. Tennessee, what Kentucky likes to do, sets up well for Tennessee. Tennessee is good against the run, and has been this year. Even last week. You didn't see any big plays outside of the one kind of foot in the ground. One cut north and south 30-yard run for a touchdown by Jahmyr Gibbs 2 weeks ago. They've done a really nice job against running backs. So, Chris Rodriguez will get his, but how many carries does it take to get his, right? And can Tennessee get off the field on 3rd down? I think they can because they're at home, and I just don't think Kentucky can stop Tennessee. I think Tennessee covers. I picked the game 45-28, and, I just think it's one of those games where, Tennessee gets off to a quick start, and Kentucky has to try to adjust what they do, and they're just not comfortable playing in that realm. And that's why I took Tennessee to cover.
Austin, I'm with you. I do a double the spread type confidence level. I'm doubling this.
Austin's pretty close to doubling.
I know.
17, you're saying 24.
And we didn't talk before that. I'm glad you're with me here because here's my big thing. There's been a ton of discussion about Kentucky and time of possession and running the football. No one talks about the fact that Kentucky's going to need to score and keep up with Tennessee. Time of possession is not a big deal based on the way this offense operates. So that's my thing. It's not like I'm all in on the Vols. It's this is not the team that's going to run with Tennessee this year. Georgia can do it. Like Georgia's defense, I think, matches up better than Bama against Tennessee.
Yeah.
Especially in the secondary, especially in nickel. But Kentucky's not that defense there, and Kentucky's definitely not the offense for this game.
Well, for Kentucky to win this game, because they can. Let's not act like they can't win the game, because most certainly can. But for them to win this game, I think they've got to hit big plays on special teams with Barryon Brown. And Tennessee's got to turn the football over, something they've not really done this year. Even the few times they've coughed it up, they've gotten back on it or it's gotten out of bounds. They've just not turned the ball over. Hendon Hooker's been basically mistake-free. Got the one pick against Alabama. That's it for the entire 7 games. So, I just ultimately think that Kentucky is going to move the ball, but Tennessee bends but don't breaks a lot. I think you'll see some field goals from the Cats. Or does Mark Stoops get kind of caught in what happened with Florida, what happened with Brian Kelly and LSU, where they chase points early, trying to go for it on 4th downs because they're worried they can't keep up, and then it really puts them behind the 8 ball even more. That's possible, but I think that Coach Stoops is probably a little more conservative than the other two, and will take the points when he can get them. Problem is, you can't trade field goals for touchdowns with Tennessee.
What's a ceiling for Will Levis in this game, in your estimation?
I don't know, 250 to 300 yards and a couple of scores. I know he's not throwing for over 200 a whole lot, but Tennessee's secondary's beat up. It's healthier than it was a week ago, but still a little bit beat up. And how do they play him? Right? Do they play a lot of man? And try to load the box to stop Chris Rodriguez? How do they play it? I think will be interesting to kind of see how they come out and attack Kentucky's offense early in the game.
Austin Price with us. Tillman coming back this week versus coming back next week. How important is that? Just regardless of numbers this week against Kentucky, the fact that he's just getting back within the offense and working back in before they go to Athens.
I think it's big. Just to kind of, to go back to the pool analogy, to enter at the steps and not jump in at the deep end. And
because they don't have to.
Yeah, correct. So I think, you'll probably see him play around 20 snaps tomorrow. It could always change. Coaches will go in with a game plan, and then kids like, no, I'm good. Let's keep rolling.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, sure. So we'll see. But, I think going in, they're going to try to play him between 15 and 25 snaps, depending on how he's feeling, how the game's going, down and distance, situational stuff. But they're very confident in Ramel Keaton, the way he's been playing. This just adds to Tennessee's offense. And to me, I'll be interested to see how Kentucky defends Tennessee. Do they kind of sit back in the zone and say, hey, we're going to make you keep everything in front of us? Because I think Alex Golish and Josh Heupel are very patient to say, okay, fine, 6-yard throw, 6-yard throw, 6-yard throw, 6-yard throw, 8-yard run, 6-yard throw, 8-yard run. And it might take them an extra minute to get down the field, but if it ends in a touchdown, they're happy. So, I think, ultimately, that could be, pick your poison tomorrow if you're Kentucky's defense.
I'm very interested in Tillman's workload and the fact that Tennessee's been so good, and Jalen Hyatt has had such an amazing year, especially since Tillman went down. But you play the guy, obviously. He's a great player. But Tennessee doesn't sub a lot. The way they play and the way they want to have a fast break offense. They certainly don't sub in a lot of receivers. They like to go with 3 guys for the bulk of the game. So do you see this as more of a like every other series they get going with Tillman? Is he going to spot Ramel Keaton at different times? I'm curious how you see the rotation working because, Austin, as we know, Tennessee's not a team that's going to play a ton of receivers.
Well, I don't think he will not start, I don't believe. I think where you see him is, getting him in maybe a second or third series, probably third. Or again, situational. If they have kind of a stoppage and they're going to have to sub, halfway through the drive, he comes in for those 4 or 5 plays to finish out the drive. I could definitely see that as well. Such a big target down there around the red zone is Cedric Tillman. So, I think that it'll be situational. They'll be methodical with it, and they want to just try to work him back in. Again, he's been battling a little more than the ankle. I think, some other stuff that kind of, was injured when he got the ankle injured. and it's been slower to heal than the ankle. I think the ankle is back 100%. So I think ultimately, how's he feeling elsewhere will determine, how much he's able to go tomorrow.
Do you think Tennessee can run the ball on Kentucky? I think the answer to this will dictate a lot of how this game goes offensively for Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think that Kentucky, Tennessee's able to run the ball in Kentucky last year. They have to be very cognizant of Hendon Hooker running the football. And then, what Jalen Wright and Jabari Small have given Tennessee the last few weeks has been really, really solid. So, I think Tennessee can. I think a lot of that will be dictated on how Kentucky plays Tennessee. Again, if they plan to sit back and play zone, I think Tennessee's going to be very comfortable handing it off and getting 5 yards and 4 yards and 6 yards, and kind of going that route.
And if they do stop the run, my confidence level is that Hooker and the receivers are going to hit big plays, and then Kentucky's going to have to drop 2 safeties back, and then they can run the football. You got to pick your poison here. And I know Kentucky's very good at stopping the big plays. They are number 1 in the SEC in allowing just 17 plays of 20 yards or more, six passing plays of 30 yards or more. I don't know how many passing offenses they face like this. That's where my confidence level is. And on the flip side, Austin, Will Levis takes a lot of sacks. Number 1 in the SEC. And Tennessee has been better in this regard, especially what we saw with the pressure we've seen recently from the Tennessee defense.
Yeah, 100%. To speak more specifically to that, like if Will Levis was playing quarterback for Alabama, Tennessee had 5 or 6 sacks in that game.
Yes, yeah.
Instead, Houdini was playing quarterback for Alabama, and Bryce Young was avoiding, eluding, and just, it was a magician at avoiding the sack. So, I agree with you. I think that plays a big role in the game. I think, you'll see Tim Banks bring some pressure. Again, I think that ultimately the only thing that's going to kind of loosen that up is if Kentucky can hit some play action over the top. And, I don't think they're super dynamic at, wide receiver. I love Barryon Brown. I think he's a top end talent. But outside of that, they don't have there's no Wan'Dale Robinson. And with Barryon, as a freshman, he's still working his way in. So they try to get him the ball in different ways, move him around on jet sweeps and short passes because he's so special with the ball in his hands. But definitely interested to kind of see how that happens. And you're right, they have not faced the Kentucky defense has not faced a quarterback or passing game like Tennessee's. The closest would be Ole Miss, but Mississippi State, they dink and dunk. They don't try to take it vertical at all. So definitely interested to see kind of how this plays out. The whole Tennessee scored 35 in 10 straight games. Kentucky's not allowed more than 24 in 11 straight games. The last team to do it was Tennessee. They've not played anybody since then. Have you seen who they played? It's just funny to me how they're touting all this stuff. Tennessee's scoring 52 on Alabama, right? And, LSU's defense was, had a lot of, acclaim coming in with B.J. Ojolari, and Tennessee goes for 40. So, I think Tennessee's offense will be just fine heading into tomorrow.
I don't buy that any smart, successful, well-coached football team is doing any peeking ahead. Though I know a lot of people will look out there and call it a trap game and that kind of nonsense. Is that anything that gets discussed on any level among the team?
I don't think so. I think this team is so grounded because the leadership is very, very never too high, never too low, kind of steady Eddie, that I don't think they can get caught looking ahead, because I don't think those particular set of leaders will let this team get caught looking ahead. I think they're very focused on this game.
Who are those leaders, Austin?
Well, offensively, it's Hendon Hooker. Again, he's not the most vocal guy in the world, but he kind of, he goes as, or they go as he goes. They look at Jabari Small, they look at Omari Thomas. The one emotional leader they kind of have is Jeremy Banks, but I wouldn't say that he's somebody that that they're just like zeroed in on. They look at Trayvon Flowers. Again, all those guys have passion for the game, but they just don't ride that roller coaster of emotion. And I think that helps them in a game like this, because it is a trap game, right? And I think they're very focused on Kentucky. They know Kentucky pushed them a year ago, could have easily won that game in Lexington. And I think that, they're going to try to get off to a good start and put Kentucky behind the 8 ball tomorrow.
Austin Price, Volquest.com with us. You can follow him at Austin Priceless. All right, let's look ahead. They're not looking ahead. We will. is this, if both teams win, Georgia and Tennessee, is it number 1 versus number 2 when the college football playoff is announced on Tuesday?
I think it's real possible. I think it's possible Tennessee could be number 1. Their resume will be better than everyone else. And, if you're the committee and you're looking at it, who's to say they don't have a different set of, rankings than the AP poll or the coaches poll. So I think it's very possible that those teams could be. If not, again, it doesn't really matter. You're going to have a lot of weeding out when Michigan plays Ohio State next week when Georgia plays Tennessee. So, you're going to have some natural attrition out of that 4. So you can kind of place them however you want to place them, right?
Austin, the Jalen McCullough situation is a weird one. Cleared to play by the university. Josh Heupel could play him if he wanted, doesn't have to. There's still a pending felony charge out there. That hasn't changed yet. It may change in the future. What do you think happens tomorrow night with Jalen McCullough?
Man, I don't know. Again, I was told late last night that they still had not yet made a decision on Jalen McCullough. And you're right. Cleared to play, but that don't mean they will play him because you're going to get some flack for playing a kid with a charge against him.
But just do what Nick Saban does and don't care. They got a guy on video hitting a girl, and he can just say whatever he wants, and the kid keeps playing, and no one's going to give him any flack.
We don't understand.
Josh Heupel's different from Nick Saban, I understand. But
who do you think was more scared? Burton leaving the field with the sorority chick running by him, or Jalen McCullough when just some random dude walked into his place?
Yeah.
That's what the lunacy of the excuse from Nick. Just say, hey, I didn't think it was enough to suspend him. That's how we're rolling. Just say what it is, right? You don't have to come up with this cockamamie stuff. It is a weird situation. I think Tennessee ultimately knows Jalen's side of the story. They know that the evidence that's out there, and I think that's why you've seen some pushback from Jalen's lawyer. Trying to get this thing resolved, and the DA seems like they're in no hurry. It's election season. Probably should be in a hurry, right? Or
that's a fair point. I didn't think about that.
That's kind of where I'm at with this thing. It is what it is. If they play Jalen, I got no problems with it. Everybody else in the league does.
Well, if they play him, he's already missed games.
You could always point back to, the kid missed 3 games now?
1 game, yeah.
2. Well, UT Martin.
We're
not counting that as a game, so 2, but 1.5. Maybe 1.5.
Austin Price joins us each and every Friday. Austin, always great information, man. And enjoy the weekend. Yet another great atmosphere at Neyland with the blackout, the helmets. It all looks great, and the atmosphere should be unbelievable.
What do you think about the uniforms, Austin? What do you think about the all-black head to toe?
I love them, man. If you're going to rock the black jerseys, you rock the black helmet. And, I'm all for it. Again, Tennessee were orange and white against Florida. They were orange and white against Alabama. This is an alternate against Kentucky. Who knows what they'll do alternate-wise in the month of November on the road. We've all seen the other pictures that are out there of other helmets. So I think that's, either Columbia or
Vandy.
For you guys there in Nashville.
Yeah, the checkerboard in Nashville.
For that home game, they're going to play at Vanderbilt.
Hey, listen. I don't think the head coach would hate it if the fans checkered an opposing team stadium, because I think it just helps in recruiting, right? Just shows the power of the fan base.
Can you imagine?
I know Max, my dog, who's barking downstairs, that probably someone walking their dog would agree.
What kind of dog is Max?
Max is a Cavapoo.
I have a Cavapoo.
King Charles, half poodle.
I have a Cavapoo. Ripley. We got to get Ripley and Max a hang.
Anytime, buddy.
All right.
You guys can go do that at Atlanta Athletic Club together.
Yeah.
Austin, thank you, man. Enjoy it, and we'll catch up next week.
Sounds good. Appreciate it, guys.
Right. Big week coming up regardless, as Tennessee will take on Georgia, and both teams should come off a win in the SEC
Austin
this
is as confident as you guys that Tennessee will handle business relatively easily tomorrow.
Maybe I'm overconfident. Maybe you're talking me out. Chad has been very measured all season. Even against Bama, he was like, the spread's right. The spread's okay. We're not there yet. And then Tennessee did what it did, and I'm thinking, man, they're there. And Kentucky's not.
But I haven't been overly negative about them either. I thought Tennessee might cover and lose a close game to Bama, and they won a close game against Bama.
Hypothetically, just 30 seconds. If Bama wins that game on the field goal that they missed, and Tennessee doesn't go down and tie it, what's the spread this week versus what it is right now?
I don't think it's that different, honestly.
That's
on the
how
two
I
teams,
feel about it.
It's probably 10 instead of. I think it's 12 right now, or 12 and a half.
It's two touchdowns.
Yeah, it's two scores.
Two scores.
I think either way. The only thing that I'll keep pointing out is if you're Kentucky, you just put on the film against Pitt and hope you get that Tennessee. But to do that, you're playing the numbers games of that's 1 out of 7 performances that they look like that. But that's what you have to – multiple turnovers, special teams mistake, right? Tennessee had a punt blocked in that game. They had a chance to make it a 2-score game the entire second half and stalled out against a good defense when they got across the midfield or right around midfield. I mean, to me, that's the formula for Kentucky. Win the turnover battle and then hope that Tennessee isn't on fire offensively and that you make enough plays with Will Levis that you can hang around.
To be close.
Coming up.
But you got
to. They're not going to win.
It's not a good spot to be in when you're a team depending on the other team to play bad. And that's what Kentucky's doing.
Yeah.
So I agree with you guys in that respect.
Coming up, we've got 3 other games we're going to feature and tell you some background with and our picks for each of those games. Plus, Paul will preview his trip to Houston, not for the Texans-Titans, but for the World Series. Game 2 tomorrow, Game 1 tonight. That's next on OutKick 360.
Was there a moment that you always look back to from Black Hawk Down and you said to yourself in that moment, I am not making it out? Like, I will not survive today because of this one thing.
It was kind of the entire day, the entire night. There was a portion of time, I think, in the middle of the night where things kind of calmed down and it wasn't as chaotic, and we were just kind of sitting waiting for guys in helicopters to get extricated and things like that. And it wasn't until the sun started to kind of peak back up where you're like, this is going to turn back on again. But for the initial assault and 2 or 3 times that I went out into the city, it was just I don't think any of us are going to make it out alive. And so every time we would kind of get back and be secure and all right, get more ammo, and we're going back out to try and find this other crash site. And I didn't think that it was happening for any of us. I kind of came to peace. I was just telling my son about this actually the other day, but I kind of came to peace with, okay, if I get hit in the chest, like I've got a plate carrier, hopefully that stops it. If I get hit in the arms or the legs, chances are I'll live. And if I get hit anywhere else, it's probably going to be pretty quick and traumatic and over. So I hope that I remember thinking specifically in the middle of the afternoon, I hope that I can just look at the blue sky and have something peaceful to look at, not this whole, what I'm looking at in front of me. I hope that's not my last moments. And that kind of gave me a little bit of peace.
This one, I picked it because the caption's just frankly funny. And it's also geotagged your mom's house. It says balls deep, as we used to say, long before it was a popular term. The meaning to us referred to how far into bad guy territory we were. These are a few picks from that day and also a pick of us getting ready to go. We lost a mate on this day, Andy Fernandez. Although he was brand new to the unit, he had just been assigned, he left his mark, and will forever be etched into historic endeavors. R.I.P. Andy. So I know you probably can't get into specifics. The caption's hilarious, the top half of it anyways. But Are you able to say anything about what this Instagram post is in relation to?
That was post gunfight. I think it's been talked about in some book, someplace. So I don't read any military history stuff. So I don't know. People will send me things sometimes where like, oh, this must be from this book that so-and-so wrote about. I don't know. It was kind of post gunfight. We were outnumbered and surrounded by 130, 150 dudes, and had at least beat everybody back enough that that was kind of that moment when that picture was taken. So we didn't necessarily know at the time, like, it was any gunfight is a scary moment, and, you don't really necessarily know the outcome. But it was almost, for me and where I was, it was almost a fun gunfight. Like, they couldn't hit me where I was, and they couldn't hit my group where we were based on the terrain. And so we were almost kind of laughing, running back and forth, shooting at these guys over here, go grab some more ammo, go shoot at these guys over here. And so it wasn't, a terrifying moment. It turned into not to be a terrifying moment. But then we started hearing radio calls, hey, we got some people hit and injured, and okay, well, now this is a serious thing. It's not a funny thing anymore. And if anything, the post kind of reflects that, where,
Right.
Initially, hey, haha, fun. This was, a good day. And then, somebody paid the ultimate price that day. And but that's about as much as I can say.
Tennessee and Kentucky tomorrow. One of the top games across the SEC. You've got Georgia and Florida. Used to be a massive game. It was number 9 in Chad's top 10 games of the week. And I don't disagree with him when he said they barely made it into the top 10 whatsoever. It's a 22.5-point spread for the Gators.
But I still feel like this is going to be a better game than that spread. I laid it out earlier. Anthony Richardson has shown up in the other 2 high-profile matchups. This is his 3rd. I think he shows up to a level. They're not going to win, but I think I'm picking Florida to cover. Let's put it that way.
I hope you're right, because I'm following you on that one.
Yeah.
I hope you're right with our other games, our top college football matchups. Ohio State and Penn State. You are as confident in the Buckeyes as I am in the Vols against Penn State versus Kentucky on my end. Why?
I think Penn State's just another team, similar to Kentucky, honestly, that with their offense and their quarterback, they're just not built to keep up, to play keep up. And you got to be able to play keep up with Ohio State if you're going to have a chance. With C.J. Stroud, Marvin Harrison Jr., that offense, 2 terrific running backs. I mean, you've got to score points. I just don't think Penn State has the ability to do that against this Ohio State offense. I love Singleton, the freshman running back for Penn State. Good running game, just not enough to keep up with Ohio State in this one.
Yeah, and Penn State's secondary has shown up throughout. And they don't make many penalties here. Only 5 pass interference calls all year for the Nittany Lions. But Ohio State's a different beast. And everyone's pointed to Tennessee's record, right? Alabama's record, Georgia's. This is their first true chance to grab everyone's attention for the voting public, I'm saying, especially with the college football playoff rankings coming out on Tuesday.
But even if they blow out Penn State,
no, I'm with you. But the argument,
Tennessee wins,
right?
I don't see any argument for Tennessee not being number one unless you just want to piggyback off of Georgia's national title and say, well, they haven't lost, so they'll be our number 1 team and Tennessee's number 2. Resume to resume, it's not close with what Tennessee's done.
But the perception
and
goes
LSU is helping them a lot with their great play the last 2 weeks.
Well, but the perception goes from, who have they played to? Did you see what they did to Penn State? That will be the narrative, even though the resume for Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, better.
That narrative is wrong.
Sure.
I'm here to tell you that. And that's not to say that Ohio State's not the better team. They're likely going to be in the college football playoff if they handle business. Tennessee's done more at this point in the season.
Let's go to the Big 12. Oklahoma State against Kansas State.
Spencer
Oklahoma
Sanders.
State is a play away from being unbeaten based on their 2 overtime performance.
This is the best defense that Spencer Sanders will have gone against this year. So,
and I thought the Cowboys would dip defensively, and they have not. They lost their coordinator to Ohio State,
Jim Knowles.
Yeah, and Knowles has drastically turned around the Buckeyes defense. But here's Oklahoma State doing what they do and not getting a ton of credit for it. And I think people have overlooked it. I'm not overlooking them here. I think they go in and win.
And take a second to appreciate these 2 programs, Oklahoma State and Kansas State. Neither one of them recruit at an elite level, but they know exactly who they are. Chris Kleiman at Kansas State, he is a 1AA guy from North Dakota State, powerhouse in 1AA. And I know that it's FCS, but I still like to go back to the old school 1AA. But they know their guys.
Yep.
They know where to recruit. They know where to go. Kansas State started it way back when with Bill Snyder, when he went into all those Kansas JUCOs that are located in the state and got those guys. They know exactly who they are. This is going to be a really good game. Adrian Martinez has been great. I've not seen the injury report with him. It was very odd in their last game.
Yeah.
Because I saw Tim Brando tweet this, that I think it was Tim Brando, that Adrian Martinez was out from the second quarter on, pads on, moving around on the sideline, did not appear injured, but there was no sideline reporter in the game. And he said this is a lesson to always have a sideline reporter because they don't know why he's not playing. If it was coach's decision or if it was, this was against TCU, or if it was something else. So I've not seen a report on Adrian Martinez. I think it's going to be a great game, though, either way.
That's pretty uncommon not to have a sideline reporter.
Well, not
for a game involving a
top
10 team.
I mean, unfortunately, there are still broadcasts done from a studio. Not many. But the first game of the year was in Dublin. They didn't have a crew there.
Yeah.
Ole Miss and Texas A&M, the Aggies. Man, it has been a rough stretch for what's going on in College Station. Meanwhile, Ole Miss is coming off their first loss of the season to LSU. The Rebels are favored by 2. They can run the football. A&M has struggled to stop it. I like Lane Kiffin and the Rebels.
Big bounce back.
Davey, is A&M 3-4 or 4-3? Do you know their record? 3-4? So 3-4 A&M. Tough stretch to close out the season. That game against Miami at home in Arkansas on a neutral field balanced the first part of the season where it didn't get completely off the rails. This is another opportunity to not fall completely off the rails, right? Because it's going to be bad no matter what. There's no coming back from their offense this year and what it's done. But I see this as an opportunity for A&M.
What's the crowd
If they
like?
beat Ole Miss at home,
what's the crowd like?
Lukewarm. We need to get shoot Billy Lucci a text and find out how.
When's the last
how
time
many of his
Midnight
tickets are he
Yell
selling?
was lukewarm?
It's going to get a lot more. It's not even lukewarm. It'll be freezing cold if this offense continues on its current path. But I just think A&M, if they win at home against Ole Miss, you have a chance of you're going to under-deliver on expectations no matter what, but at least some form of respectability with your record at the end of the year. But this is one they need to win.
World Series Game 1 tonight. in Houston. Game 2 tomorrow. Astros and Phillies. Paul, do you know where you'll be sitting?
I do not. I do not yet know. I'm happy to be in the building. I'm going to pick out a nice neutral outfit tonight, set it up. I get in like 11:30, maybe catch a workout, maybe doze a little bit and sit in front of some college football.
After
to be
a
ready,
nice
because
meal?
I'm expecting my wish for my game would be extra innings, extra inning classic.
Workout, eat, nap, World Series.
Bang.
That
Sounds like
Saturday.
a glorious
It's a perfect day.
It's a great Saturday. I
A
love
perfect
that.
day. Have you considered, and I know you haven't, wearing a Phillies hat?
No. If I'm wearing a hat, it'd be a Yankees hat, and
Well,
that would be disrespectful.
Let me
to
also
Matt.
say,
tying it
yeah.
in with your
No, he should
with
not
your
do
family.
that. He should not do that to Mattress Mac,
I will not do it.
the
to
provider
Mattress
of the
Mac.
ticket. If anything, you should
I
wear
think
an
he would
Astros
be-
jersey.
I will not be wearing.
I think he'll be more
Astros.
offended by the Yankees hat than the Phillies hat.
I think
Mattress
he
Mac.
would as well. I won't wear either.
Good call. Neutral.
Neutral.
Wear your Pro Football
Now I'll
Hall of
see
Fame.
about
No
my.
tie.
I'll see
Loosen
about
the
my
tie or no
cheering
tie?
level.
No time.
Cheers to the weekend, guys. Enjoy,
Ladies and gentlemen,
enjoy all the football.
the weekend.
There we go. Back at it Monday. OutKick 360.
Don't block the box, but do please lock your locks. See ya.